Okay. Yeah, let's get to this. Let's get into it. So, Olivia Jade went on the Red Table Talk. Have y'all seen it? Have y'all seen it? First of all, first question actually. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you know the details of the controversy? Because we all know that, like, Felicity and Lori are the main people being talked about, but this whole thing, it's called Operation Varsity Blues, is kind of nuts. So give me a thumbs up emoji if you, like, know the details, and give me a thumbs down if you don't. Anne said my happy is my son's birthday. He's 14 this week. Happy birthday to your son. You guys are so sweet to each other. Y'all are the best. Okay, so we got thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, but we also got some nopes in here. Okay, so just briefly, I'm going to kind of go over basically what the whole problem was and two examples of people outside of Felicity and Lori who ended up being in trouble for this, because looking into it, I was like, wow, this, I always knew that, like, rich people could pay for things that they didn't outright earn. Like, I always knew that was a thing, but the extent to which they went to get those things was a lot for me to learn. So basically, in early 2019, the public was made aware of this effort by the ultra rich to defraud other colleges and universities by either, there's like two legs of the scheme. So first leg is by paying this organization. It's called, where is it? It's called Key Worldwide Network or something. I wrote it down. Oh, Key Worldwide Foundation. So they're paying Key Worldwide Foundation to either falsely proctor their children's SAT and or ACT exams, or they were paying them to take the tests for them. So either taking the tests for them or going through as the kid was taking the test and correcting their answers. And if you don't live in America, SAT and ACT are two separate standardized tests that you can take when you're either a junior or a senior in high school that kind of go towards whether or not a college or university is going to accept you. A lot of it depends on your GPA, like your grade point average throughout your time in school, as well as extracurriculars. But say you have an all-A student A and an all-A student B, and they were both president of their, like, senior year class, whatever. They have all the same like hobbies, all the same grades, all of that. You can kind of say, well, this person's SAT score was higher, so we'll take them instead, basically. And so they were paying to falsely proctor them. And then the other leg was falsely representing them as athletes in order to be athletic recruits at these colleges and universities. And of course, it wasn't just like fake taking pictures of them doing whatever sport. It also involved paying Key Worldwide Foundation, as well as like bribing other people who worked at the schools. And so one example is a man named Gordon Kaplan. He's an attorney and co-chair at the law firm of Wilkie, Farr, and Gallagher. He allegedly paid Key Worldwide Foundation. That company is run by William Singer, who ended up, he pled guilty in March 2019 to racketeering, conspiracy, and money laundering charges. And so he is the CEO of Key Worldwide Foundation, as well as the owner of Edge College and Career Network. And so I was getting another call. It's scam likely, so we're safe. Basically, he paid Key Worldwide Foundation $75,000 to have people proctor his daughter's ACT exam and correct the answers as she went along, and he pled guilty on May 21st of 2019 and was sentenced to 1 month in prison, 1 year of probation upon release, a fine of $50,000, and 250 hours of community service. You're gonna notice the community service and the fines are a very common thing. The fines, I guess I get. I don't know who they're paying that fine to, but I want to see the hours of community service, because we obviously know that money is not a huge thing for them. They're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their kids in here. Make them do something. Like, make them go out and make the world a better place, even if it's against their will. And then the other example is, this is for the college acceptance bribery. Another example would be of Douglas Hodge. He is the former CEO of PIMCO Investment Management Company, and he was accused of using bribery to facilitate the admission of 2 of his children into USC as athlete, the cheating and false athletic resume, and he ended up pleading not guilty. But he got one of the longest sentences after he was found guilty out of like the 50 people that were charged in relation to this. And so he ended up having to spend 9 months in prison, in federal prison. He had to pay $750,000 in fines. He had to serve at least 500 hours of community service and remained on supervised release for 2 years. I'm going to see what some of you guys are saying. What is going on outside? Jeez. Anna said, suspicious, nice shirt. Thank you. Siobhan said, wasn't all this for like an average college? Some of them, I guess, would be just kind of considered average, but some of them are a little bit more top tier. So basically, there were several different colleges involved, like several different athletic directors and coaches were involved in defrauding their university that they worked for. But some of the schools involved were University of Texas at Austin, USC, I believe UCLA, Yale, which is prestigious, and Georgetown as well. So well-known schools for sure. And then Anna said UCLA is incredibly difficult to get into. Momji said, OMG, I just got here, but I can't be on for long since I have to go to work soon. I'll just watch the replay later. It will be up for you. T.A. Brian said, how rich do you have to be to get a private ACT testing with someone who corrects your answers? What the F? Right? Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. And maybe it's because I'm not ultra wealthy. Like, I'm just an average person. But that just seems like so much money. But I guess for them, it's just kind of like, well, yeah, we do what we gotta do for our kids. I don't even know. T.A. Bryan said, I'm astonished that those tests can be accepted. That's kind of my other thing, is like, why is that even offered in the first place? There should be rules about what kind of tests they allow. Because I get, like, sometimes you might have to make some sort of exception if somebody, like, I don't know if this, applies to standardized testing, but like I had a friend in high school who had dyslexia, and so she got extra time on all her tests. And so I think they can make reasonable accommodations, but if these kids were just average kids, like they would have to prove that they needed that reasonable accommodation to have a private test. So it just doesn't make sense. Siobhan said, I feel like a tutor would have been more cost effective. You would think it would be more cost effective, but the kids probably also just weren't interested. It's like, well, we could just pay for this, right? Yeah, hi, Chloe. Marie said, anyone remember when another girl on Gossip Girl took the SAT for Serena? They knew. Oh, gosh. CB Bartelt said, that's a disability accommodation. Schools try and fight those. Even with a diagnosis. Yeah, I'm sure they do, because it's like, wow. Like, they don't want to make the reasonable accommodation. And so that's why it's kind of even more suspicious to me that, like, even with a diagnosis, it's sometimes hard to get those accommodations made. But, again, I guess just if you're rich, you get to do whatever you want. And I'm not trying to, like, bash people and be, like, super negative or bitter, but it's just kind of like, yeah, you're rich, that's great. Don't use your wealth to, like, harm other people. maybe. I don't know, just my thought. So anyway, obviously tons of ultra wealthy people were involved in this, but the two main people that we were talking about were Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin and their families, because they're actresses. If you grew up in America watching TV, you probably saw them, you know, a lot, depending on your age. You might have watched Full House growing up. I know I definitely did. And so when I heard it, I was like, no, everybody was like this though, like, not Aunt Becky, why would you do this to us? And so obviously people were more interested in talking about them. And then I think it got even more attention on YouTube because Lori's daughter, Olivia Jade, has 1.87 million subscribers. She had a collection with Sephora, and there was footage of her that she put out talking about how she didn't really care about school and she just wanted to go for the experience. Like, she wanted to go to parties and go to tailgates, and she was going to talk to the dean about how she needed to be given a special exception so she could still travel for her brand deals. And this is just kind of a side note, but I honestly think Felicity played it smarter in this scenario, because she was accused of paying $15,000 to participate in the entry exam cheating part of the scheme, and she was sentenced to 14 days in prison, which she only ended up serving 11 of, and then she got 250 hours of community service and was fined $30,000. And so she pled guilty pretty quickly on, and that's what they sentenced her to. And I think they were obviously they were lenient on her because she's famous, but I also think the fact that she was just like, all right, I'll take the sentence, you know, gave her some goodwill with the sentencing. And then as far as Lori and her husband, Massimo Giannulli, they pled not guilty to the accusation of paying bribes totaling $500,000 to have both of their daughters designated as recruits to the U crew team and then get them admitted to the school. They were both found guilty, and Lori was sentenced to 2 months in prison and had to pay a fine of $150,000 and complete 100 hours of community service. And then Massimo was sentenced to 5 months in prison, 250 hours of community service, and a fine of $250,000. So they definitely got things a little bit harsher than Felicity and a lot of other people, and I think it is because they're high profile and they pled not guilty for so long, which I honestly don't get, because it's like, you did it. And the guy, like William Singer, is that his full name? It's like Rick William or William Singer. William Rick Singer. So William Singer was found guilty. And so obviously if you paid him this money, if you were working with him and your college counselor, they're going to be able to connect you to the crime. I don't know. Like, that kind of made me lose a little bit of respect for her. Alia B said, what's crazy to me is that when two black women changed the address on their child's paperwork so they could attend a better school but received 5 years in prison just for a better opportunity. Right. Like, the imbalance is insane to me. I just don't get it. Kona said a tutor would have been a waste of money too. Olivia never wanted to go to school in the first place, which again is why she basically got huge backlash. It wasn't an opportunity she wanted that she stole. Right. So anyway, Olivia Jade, when this happened, she kind of went quiet, like didn't really post much. She's posted 1 or 2 YouTube videos since then, and about halfway through 2019, she posted a video or a picture on Instagram flipping off the camera and tagging a bunch of like major news outlets. And people were mad because it's like, come on, like your family did this thing. Like your family messed up. They took positions that could have been for other people who actually earned a spot, like would have earned a spot on the crew team and maybe would have needed a scholarship to go to college in the first place that they didn't get because you paid your way onto the team and you engaged in this huge scam. People have a right to be mad and talk about it. So people spoke about her for a little bit, but then the past 6 months have been pretty quiet. And few days ago, she made her return to social media on the Red Table Talk that is hosted by Jada Pinkett Smith, her daughter Willow Smith, and then her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris. And so I'm sure you guys have heard of this. They have a red table, they sit around the table, and they interview people and kind of have conversations with them. And before the interview even started, Adrienne, or Gammy, was very vocal about how she was kind of opposed to having Olivia on the show. And her and Jada were kind of on the opposite ends of this because basically Adrienne, or Gammy, was saying, oh my gosh, another phone call. Adrienne was saying, like, no matter what happens, if she comes on our show or not, like, she's gonna be fine. She's a privileged white girl. She's fine. I don't understand, like, why she wants to come talk to 3 black women. I don't have sympathy for her. And then Jada's end of the spectrum was kind of like, well, I get it. She comes from privilege. She comes from money. She'll be okay. But I remember my experience with Willow feeling like she came from a life of such privilege that she didn't have a right to be sad, and that leading her into a darker place. And so, yes, like in theory, money-wise, she will be okay, but that doesn't mean that emotionally this isn't hard for her. And so they kind of went back and forth, but I do have to say, I get where Gammy's coming from. Like, the optics of it are kind of off to me because maybe, like, I don't know Olivia's motives for anything. However, I could see the argument of, well, she grew up in a family with show business. Willow grew up in a family with show business. I think that Willow, Jada, and Adrienne all seem very kind and very warm. And so you could say, like, we grew up in similar worlds. They seem like nice people. I think this might be a safe place to go. But you also have to understand that it kind of looks like a very, very privileged young lady who is white going to 3 black women for absolution in the eyes of the public, which Gammy's like, I don't have time for this. So I get it. What do you guys think about that, though, about her choosing Red Table to come back on? Bando once said, hey y'all, I'm new, but I love your channel. Well, hi, welcome. I watched the Red Table Talk, and it didn't sound like she took any accountability. She just blamed the parents. Kona said, I heard someone call Gammy bitter, which not only has racial undertones, but I think she has the right to be bitter. This woman grew up in the age of Rosa Parks. She didn't sound bitter to me. I think she was just straight up like, I don't feel bad for her, which is a fair, like, that is a totally fair way to feel. She doesn't feel bad for her. Olivia has immense privilege, and really, like, completely honestly, she could stay off the internet and never work another day in her life, and she would be fine, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe emotionally she got a lot of hate for this, and that was probably hard, but you have all the resources you need to get through that. Brianna said, I didn't watch the full interview. I just saw some clips from drama videos talking about it. Hi, Zoe. Welcome. I don't know how you accidentally clicked in, but hello. Brianna said, yeah, I agree with Gammy as well. Kara said, in my opinion, Willow is entitled to want to give Olivia Jade a chance, but I agree with Gammy based on her actions. She doesn't want nor deserve redemption. Kona said, I also believe Jada with her statement that Olivia reminded her of Willow and Jaden because her and Will pushed for their acting careers before the kids put their foot down. Olivia never did. Yeah. Oscar said, I didn't watch it, but I feel like they probably had no time for her. Chloe said, I agree with Gammy. Anne said it was a slap to the people that had to work for their positions once she got to buy. Yeah. Aaliyah B said exactly, Grandma did not have the time. She really, like, she didn't. And I think that that's totally fair. Like, she's calling it like it is. But, you know, of course, they did end up having her on the show. And I have such mixed opinions on it, really. Like, I don't even have a definitive thing other than I don't think it was great. I don't think it was terrible, but I'm inclined to believe she probably worked with a media coach before she went on there, and so it felt very fabricated to me. And there were some things that I hope that she said that were sincere, but I wouldn't really be surprised if they weren't. So basically, the few of the things that were good and bad throughout the interview is they did talk a lot about her privilege and, you know, asked, didn't you know that it was wrong to do that? Like, when you were taking those photos, when you knew your parents were paying for you to get into a school that you didn't get into, like, didn't you think that there was something wrong with that? And she was like, well, actually, in high school, I cared a lot about my grades. Like, I had straight A's, and that's fine. Like, that might be true, but also, you knew that your parents paid your way into USC. Like, you know that you didn't get in there on your own merit by going through a typical application and waiting to hear back. And I get where she's coming from when she says, this is what I saw other families around me doing. Like, this is what I saw my friends' families doing. I just thought that that's kind of how it was, and you can't understand privilege when you're living inside of it. Which I get. Like, I understand if you grew up in this bubble, like this tiny bubble of a world, you're not inherently going to know that. You're not inherently going to know that there are people who don't have those same privileges, especially when you're younger. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, like, what age I was when I started caring about, like, social issues or about things that didn't directly affect me. Because Olivia has never had to worry about money a day in her life. So I'm just trying to think what kind of catalyst would happen to make her care about those things, or to make her look into people who are different than her and who have different privilege than her. And I don't know, because people were saying, like, well, she's been on YouTube, so she has to know that other people live different lives than her, which I get, but also when you're the one creating the YouTube content, it's about you and your life. So I don't know if the YouTube thing is enough of a reason that she should have known. I think, honestly, she should have known that something was wrong when she was taking those pictures. Because I can kind of get the justification of, well, like, everybody's parents pay for them to go to school. If you give enough money, if you donate a building, like, they'll let you in. But there has to be a point when you're posing for rowing photos and you've never done crew a day in your life that you think, I wonder if this is wrong. And I don't know why that didn't happen for her. I really don't. Oscar said she thought it was, just thought it was normal. I guess, like, and that's what I'm struggling with, because I don't ever want to say, like, you're a liar, you should know better, but also, as, like, a decent person, you should probably have this moment of questioning why you're doing what you're doing, and if it really is ethical, if it really is okay. Kona said, Grammy just had a very realistic point of view instead of, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, like Jada and Willow. I think that's because Grammy propped them up for a better life than her own. Yeah. And Christina said, you took growing pics. What do you think they were for? Right? Like, you posed for pictures of you playing a sport, not playing a sport, but, like, doing an activity for the crew team that you've never done in your life, and you didn't question it. I find that part hard to believe. I fully believe that she might have not recognized the magnitude of her privilege because she grew up in it and it wasn't something that was acquired later in life. So I do think that's something that has to be, like, an effort that she makes to actually learn about things outside of herself. But as far as just straight up lying, defrauding a university, I have to question it. I have to question it. Zoe said, just because other people do it doesn't make it okay. If you were surrounded by murderers, that wouldn't make you murdering someone okay. Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know, but if you grew up in a crime family, like in a family that is okay with and kind of promotes crime, you might fall into that same pattern too. So even though objectively it's not okay, and I'm not defending Olivia, I'm just kind of trying to take the, like, devil's advocate route of, like, well, if you grew up seeing that, it might not objectively be okay, but you might fall into those same patterns. I don't know though. Vistas and Vibes said, I grew up in a privileged home and I still knew right from wrong. I still knew what lying and cheating was. I am so tired of that. Too privileged to know the difference between right and wrong crap. Katie said, honestly, humility goes a long way in my books, and that is what I feel has been missing so much with all the celebrities and YouTube personalities when they make mistakes. Yeah, that's something that I value too. Humility and the ability to, even if you mess up, understand the impact of your error and really sit with it and recognize it. And that's kind of why it like rubbed me so wrong that Lori and Massimo said not guilty. Like, they pleaded not guilty. You did this though. Like, you know that you did it. I don't understand. Brown said, for me, that was high school, starting to care for social issues. I was sheltered, and high school was when I started to actually start to see things. Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of, like, depending on how you grow up, that's kind of, like, a common age, because I'm trying to think when I, like, recognized that not everybody lived the same life that I did, and it was probably when I went to college. I grew up very sheltered, too. Like, obviously, I knew people had, like, different religions and different life experiences. I'm not Mormon, but I grew up in an extremely Mormon town, like, extremely Mormon high school. They had seminary, like a seminary building right across the street that the Mormon kids could go to. And so, obviously I grew up different from them, but all very sheltered, like completely sheltered. And so I think when I went to college and like moved out into dorms, that's kind of when I realized that people had all sorts of different experiences, and not all of them were good, and it didn't depend on whether their family was nice or not. It depended on social issues like that. So I think that's kind of when it was for me. Sarah said, I feel like she's really playing dumb about the whole thing. Kind of. And that was another kind of problem that I had. Was the language that she used when she was talking about it, because she kept referring to it at like the decision to defraud a university as a mistake. And I don't think it was a mistake. This could just be me like being pedantic, but to me a mistake is kind of something that you make in a split decision. Like, that can be a mistake, but something that you literally take photos of and write a check out to and have conversations about how you're going to get your kid in when they didn't earn a spot, like, that's a decision. And you can go back later and you can always say, that decision was really bad. I shouldn't have done that. I feel horrible that I didn't make the right choice at the time. But I don't think you can call it a mistake. And I think doing that is a way to really distance herself from it, which, on the one hand, her parents really should have been the ones leading her and teaching her a way to live with integrity. And I'm sure they're the ones who started this process of defrauding USC. And so I get that it wasn't her like overall decision, but she still went along with it. So saying it's a mistake is like, oh, it was just an accident. We slipped into our pocketbook and wrote that check for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, it was a choice. And I really would have appreciated her taking more direct language with it. Faye Copeland said, yay, I made it. After I watched the table talk, I was thinking to myself, what would B say about this? That's so funny. Christina said, another thing that confuses me is that at 18, 19, most teens don't blindly obey their parents, but Olivia Jade seems to at the time. Yes, very true. Most 18 and 19-year-olds are like, I don't care, don't talk to me. And they have a rebellious bone. But Olivia said that, like, because they had asked, are you mad at your parents? Or, like, were you mad at them at any point in time? And she said no. And I appreciate her honesty because, you know, at least she was being sincere. She was like, no, my mom's my best friend. And so I think that that's kind of where maybe part of the problem lies, in the fact that she wouldn't think to question her parents, because I think there's a fine line between being like, how do I want to say this? When your kids are growing up, I don't know how effective of a parent you can be if they consider you their best friend when they're that age. I think a very kind of normal route for like healthy mother-daughter relationships to go, or like female caretaker, person who has custody of you, person that you're closest to, who's kind of leading you, who is a mother figure and child, is obviously, like, you love that person when you're a kid, and then as you start to get older, you still love them, but they're setting rules. They're not letting you get away with things. They're very much in control of, teaching you things that are going to benefit you in the long run. And in your teenage years, you don't see that. You just see them trying to maybe keep you from doing fun things that you want to do. If they give you a curfew when you're 17, 18, it's like, oh my gosh, you're trying to control me. You go up against each other and you have this power struggle because you want to be an adult and you want to do what you want to do, but also they're kind of looking out for you. And so you have those few rough years, and then I think once you get to the other side of like those years where you are maybe living on your own or living with a roommate and you're working in the real world or you're going to school, you can look back and be like, she was just trying to help me. And then that's when you get, in my experience, that's when you get kind of close with your mom and you want to go to her for stuff and you see her, yes, as your mom, but more as a friend. But for somebody to be 18, 19 and say like, my mom's my best friend, it shows me that I don't know how much of that groundwork she was doing. I think she was focused more on being the friend than on being an authority and a parent figure. But of course, I don't know. That's just how it looks from the outside. Chloe said you have to be a mother first. As they got older, dynamics change, but you're still the mother. Pick your battles. Yeah. Absolutely. Anne said, during the formative years, I'm not here to be my son's friend. When he's an adult and out of my home, I can be his friend, not now. Right, like right now, if you were to be their friend, I don't know how much of a benefit you would be doing to your kid if you were just like, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, who cares? Have fun. You have to set those rules and you have to teach them the values that are important to you as a family. And so that can result in a lot of like anger and like fights, butting heads, but it's important in the long run for your kids. Zoe said, I feel like I've always known that people live different lives. My family was on the lower end of the economic scale, and I always knew that there were rich/privileged people out there. Yeah. And I think it does just kind of depend on your family and how sheltered you were, how much experience you have with people outside of you. Because you can, I don't know. Everybody's so different. You kind of think that like, well, how I grew up, that's how everybody sees the world, but it's not. And it's kind of a weird thing to have to realize that you could have been totally aware of something your whole life that another person just had no idea about until they were 16, 18, 20, until they left the home. Like, it's just wild that everybody on the planet, like, no one has the exact same life experience as you. It messes with me sometimes. Like, it really does. Aaliyah B said, we see how the parents who are too busy being friends don't get respect from their kids. Right. It's kind of like you have you've got like that one friend in high school whose mom like doesn't care and will let people like come to her house and be like, if you're gonna drink, I'd rather you drink here. And at the time, like, that's the friend that everybody wants to hang out with. And they're like, oh, your mom lets you do whatever. Your mom's so cool. But then as you get older, you kind of see the effect that it can have on that kid, not having had a really strong parental figure, but rather having that parental, like that mom or dad, just want to be their friend, just want to be their kid's favorite person. It can lead to some problems for sure. Bandel once said, as a black woman who works in higher education, this whole thing ticked me off to no end. Oh, you work in higher education. Did that, like, this could be a totally random or irrelevant question, but did this whole thing, like Operation Varsity Blues, did it affect how you ran like college acceptance or like going through applications? I don't know if you work in that field specifically, but that would be really interesting to know if any other colleges or universities said, okay, we got to like crack down and make sure this kind of stuff isn't happening here. Kona said, and he's very self-aware of it, so he usually lets her get away with most of the time. He doesn't like the fact that is the truth of their dynamic. Oh, I was like, I'm kind of confused. You put up another comment. Kona said, my boyfriend was best friends with his mom growing up, and that resulted in essentially, his word goes, he's the boss and he knows it. If his mom gets her way, it's because he let her get her way. And he's very self-aware of it, so he usually lets her get her way most of the time. He doesn't like the fact that that is the truth of the dynamic. Right. And as interesting as it is, it can be fun to like get your way. I can see that being a good time. But I do think that there is a desire in kids to have strong parental figures, to have like healthy and loving parental figures that are also kind of strict on you sometimes. Like, I can totally see how that would be something that would upset him, because sometimes like you just want your mom or you just want your dad, and you want to know that that's the person you can turn to no matter how old you are, to kind of help guide you and be there for you. And when you don't have that, I think there is a sense of longing. Chloe said, they have their friends who they listen to. You're the parent they don't want to listen to. Children like boundaries even if they fight them. Yeah, I think overall it's for the best interest of the child to have those boundaries. Alberta said, you just want to know someone truly cares enough even if the answer is no. Right. Like, you might not like what they say, but if you know your parent is telling it to you in the best interest, it does feel good. Even as a kid, like as an adult, if your parent's like, I don't know if I would do that, like from my experience, this is maybe what worked out best. Even if you go against it and you still do what you wanted to do, you know that like they just wanted what was best for you, and that's what they were trying to do. But speaking of her privilege and whether she really understands it or not, she did say she worked at an after-school program. She volunteered there. And she said that it was great. She really enjoyed it. And she wants to kind of find a place where she knows kind of what her purpose in life is, and she's not just throwing money at a problem. And I think when you're involved in a social media scandal, it can be very easy to go volunteer one time, maybe 2 times, take a few pictures, and then leave and be like, oh yeah, that was a great experience, I'm totally gonna go back, and then just never go back because people forgive you. And I would love to see her continue to do that, because that would be a great way for her to understand truly that there is life outside of her bubble, that her world is not the world that everybody lives in, and she does have the time, like she doesn't have to have a job, that she can go volunteer. You know, she can still be a YouTuber, she can still be a social media influencer, but she can take a few hours every week to go spend some time with kids who are at after school programs because they need a place to be. They need supervision. Maybe they need some help with their homework. Like, they'll get an after school snack. I think her continually going there because she's choosing to could be very beneficial, and I would love to see her use her privilege and use her wealth in a way that benefits other people. And then I think that's pretty much it of the notes that I had. Like, again, overall, I think she came off in a very non-confrontational way, but like I said, I think she had media training, and she did say, like, if you asked me a year ago whether or not, like, I felt like we did anything wrong, my answer would be very different, but now I understand why it's not okay. So I do think it was good that she said that. I do, again, obviously think that she had some kind of coaching for this to come off in the best way possible, but I also don't know if she truly deeply understands why what they did was such a big deal. And I don't know if that's because she's in like 20 or 21. I don't know if it's because she's younger. I would like to think that at that age you do have the capability and capacity. I know some of you guys are 19, 20 and you understand the depth of this, so I just don't know. I'm gonna hope that maybe she's just emotionally immature, and as time goes on, she's gonna continue to do the work, but I'm also not holding my breath, if that makes sense. Zoe said that's good if she sticks to it. I hope she does. I mean, I think that would be great. Kona said, I 100% agree about longing for guidance. I feel like the mean aunt with my nieces and nephews, but I'm always the one they gravitate to once they get a little older. Yeah, that totally happens. Like, even if the one parent is, like, stricter on you, you're still going to, you're going to trust them because you know that it was for a good reason. And of course, I'm talking about healthy restrictions, like not toxic relationships where parents are placing boundaries for no reason. But I think you guys can infer that. I'm talking about healthy boundaries and restrictions. If you have one parent that just lets you do whatever and one parent that's a little bit more strict, you're probably going to gravitate towards them because not only do you want their approval, but also you want the guidance and you know that they're going to be straight up and probably give you a harder answer, even if it's not what you want to hear. Alberta said some kids get the feeling of someone caring, only get the feeling of someone caring at their after-school programs. Yeah, absolutely. I remember my mom, she used to be a children's pastor, and she would always talk about, she was like, Saturday and Sunday service, because we had Saturdays and Sundays, she was like, these need to be the absolute best they can be, because sometimes this is the only place a kid feels safe. This is the only place a kid feels loved and feels like they can let their guard down and have fun. And so we're gonna do everything right and do everything we can to make them feel that way. And I don't think, I mean, I was probably 6th grade through like 10th grade, 11th grade when I was volunteering in that age group. And I didn't really get it at the time. I was like, yeah, sure. But the more I think about it now and the more I kind of reflect on stuff like that, it just, like, it breaks my heart thinking about that. And thinking about after school programs or church services where kids have that feeling of safety and being cared for. So I do think Olivia seems, hopefully, from what I saw, like a kind-hearted person generally. So if she can continue to go there, I do think that would be awesome. Bando once said, it affected it to the point where each applicant at my institution had to be verified, i.e. did we receive donations from the family? I work at a pretty big school and a scandal was not what we wanted. Right, so you're just kind of like making sure, like covering your bases. Gotcha. Anne said it doesn't seem like she's gotten it. Maybe so, but I'm doubtful. Right. Marie said, I wish they would have talked about her flipping off the photo on Instagram, though. I wish they would have said that, too. I wish it would have been like, so, what do you think? But apparently she told, like, Cosmopolitan. I put a link in the description to that article. She told them that, like, oh, her lawyers warned her not to post it, but she's such a BA that she went and did it anyway. I don't know if she feels differently now, and she's like, hey, I guess they had a right to talk about it or what. But I do wish that they had asked her. Arsena Siobhan said, I don't think they were tough enough with the questions. They should have asked her about the middle finger photo. Yeah, I do think they were kind of light on her. I'm wondering if they were maybe being a little bit more gentle because it was her first interview back. I don't know, but there were questions that I would have loved to have been like, so what's the deal with this? So really, what about this? Why would you, like... I think, actually, probably, if I was seeing her in person, I probably would have not been as tough either. It's easy, like, when you're by yourself to be like, I would have asked the real questions. But then when you're face to face with them, you might not want to cause a conflict. Brianna said, I feel like this is completely random and not really on topic, but I always find myself wondering how different my life would look if my dad was the one who raised me, not my mom. My childhood wasn't the best because of her having custody of us. Quote, you can ignore this. I'm just typing my thoughts. No, I think that that's a totally, like, valid thing to wonder about and to question. Yeah, like you're always going to wonder. Even if you choose to like go to one school over the other or take one job over another, you're always going to wonder, well, what would have happened if I did this? And this is just my personal belief, but I always kind of tell myself, okay, well, think of what good things came from this. I personally believe in divine timing, and so it's like, okay, if I had gone this other way, these good things wouldn't have happened. Like everything in my life has led up to where I am now, and so I wouldn't be who I am without this. Like maybe it wasn't the most enjoyable thing, but without this experience, I would be a different person. So I don't know if that's helpful or encouraging at all, but I do believe that you can find the good in many things. Not everything. Some things are just really bad and we need to work on fixing them, but in most life experiences, you can find a benefit. Okay, so I'm going to read the last few and then, yeah, I'm going to have to head out. But Chloe said, being so sheltered, it shows her immaturity. Hopefully this will be a wake-up call. However, I bet Olivia just wants to get back on YouTube and get her sponsors back. I could be wrong. No, I mean, I think that's a valid theory about it. I do hope, like I said, I think she does have immaturity because she was sheltered. I could be biased, though, because I know for me, like, 18, 19, 20, I was very immature and, like, didn't really care about other people, and, like, that was my first time being on my own, and I was very sheltered, and so I was just kind of like, I'm here for a good time. But as I got older, I definitely matured a little bit more, and so, like I said, I could be biased, but I do hope it's just she hasn't had that outside life experience, and then once she does, like, she can do something good with it. And I hope that she'll continue to want to learn. Jamie said, "Aw, I love what your mom said. My mom taught Sunday school classes and told me that in class. I'm not her only child there because she had to care about everyone and show them the love they deserve." Oh my God, Jamie. I can totally relate. This is so off topic. But I remember in like 3rd or 4th grade going to camp, like summer camp, and of course my mom was a children's pastor, so she was there, and I would get so jealous of like her giving attention to other kids, and she was like, "B, when we're at home, you get my attention 5 days per week. Saturday and Sunday are shared, and you can take a week of me share." Like, she was nicer about it, but you know, she's like, "You can take a week of sharing me with other people who might not have that good of a relationship with other adults in their lives." And I was like, fine. But I remember I got so mad and so jealous of my mom, like, showing other kids attention, but I had to get over it, obviously. Alberta said, "I think we all wonder later in life, what if I had done this or that back then, where would I be now?" Yeah, I think that's totally normal. Marie said, "Do you think she'll ever let people comment on her Instagram again? It's only blue check marks." I don't know. I hope so. I mean, I think you have to kind of open yourself up to other people's opinions in order to truly grow. So obviously all the blue check marks are going to leave nice comments, and it sucks to see mean comments, but I do hope that she does open them up soon. Anna said, "You can learn something of anything," right? Anne said, "From the time my son was little, like kindergarten age, we've always told him to take care of the ones littler than him. He's an only child, so we wanted him to develop that caring about others." That's awesome. Yeah, I think that that's like a totally like smart way to teach him that, and be like, hey, you know, we can always be looking out for somebody. Like the kid that's sitting by himself, ask if he wants to come hang out with you, ask if he wants to sit with you. Because not only does that teach him how to be caring, but it also can help the other kid who might not otherwise be invited to come sit with people or to join your group or whatever. I think overall it's good for humanity to teach that to our kids. Bando once said, "They handled her with kid gloves. It was very annoying. Kind of felt like they were holding back to avoid coming off as bitter black women, but Gammy was not here for it, and I loved it." I can see that too. Like, they are wanting to kind of temper their response to her to avoid being seen like you said, as bitter Black women. But I do, like, the way that Gammy was talking, she was like, this isn't personal, but I just don't have the ability to be empathetic towards you. And I was like, that's, like, I get it when you, if you're hearing it, you're like, dang, that hurts. But I totally understand where she was coming from, what she was saying. She's like, this is going to be so minuscule for you. Like, you didn't have to go to jail. You got embarrassed, obviously, because people found out that you only got into USC because you lied and paid people. So, like, this is embarrassing for sure, but really, you're going to be okay. Arsena said Grams was very much me. I thought it was funny. I was like, tell her what's up. Jen said, and her parents are in the cushiest yoga and coffee prison they could possibly be in. Probably. I heard they were in federal prison, but I don't know if that's, like, if, I'm sure that they're gonna get special treatment. Like, come on. They're rich, you know? But that's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing before I go. If you saw my Instagram story last night, you know about this already, but when I put up my poll last week asking what kind of product recommendations you might want, y'all said CBD. On Twitter and Instagram, CBD was the winner, so I reached out to my favorite CBD company, Soul CBD, and they gave me an affiliate link, which is in the description. It is an affiliate link. It has stars on it, 2 stars next to it, which in my description says, if you see a link with this, it is an affiliate link and I may make commission off of your purchases. So, fully putting that out there. But I wanted to share some of my favorite products. If you use the link in that description box, it'll take you to their website, and then you can use the code SoulCBD10 to get 10% off of your first purchase. They do have free shipping in the US over $35. So if you're interested in trying it, feel free to check that out below. I recommend 500 milligram CBD drops, like the tincture. I don't know if that's going to be clear for you guys. This is watermelon mint. It tastes so good. I take like half a dropper to help me chill out before I go to bed, because as y'all know, I'm kind of always, my mind is always running a million miles an hour. And then I'm so sad they don't make this anymore. That's the Soothing Relief Cream. But they do make a Rapid Relief Cream. It comes in a blue container, and I'm sure it's great. Everything I've tried from them has been really good. If you live in a state where THC is not legal recreationally, or if you have a job like working for ADOT or driving a truck, or in a medical field where you cannot have THC in your system, all of their products are third-party lab tested to be THC free. So that's something that is great if that's something important to you. And go ahead, try them out if you want to. If not, no worries. But thank you guys for everybody who voted on what kind of product you wanted. And thank you to Soul CBD, one of my favorite companies, for giving me that affiliate link. And hopefully as time goes on, if there are any other products you're interested in, I could potentially get some discount codes for you, because that's kind of the important part. Yeah, the affiliate part's nice, but also if I can give you guys something like a discount on a product I really like, then that makes me feel good. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If you have not liked the stream yet and you enjoyed it, please do so. I would be really appreciative and it would help so much. And please subscribe if you're interested in more conversations like this. If you're subscribed already, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of you, and I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you so much for watching. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.